Thank you so much, Abigail, for being here. I'm really, really excited to be speaking with you today. You want to start by taking 30 seconds to tell us a little bit about yourself and exactly what you do.
Sure. So I'm a mom of six amazing children, and my and a wife of an amazing husband. And every single one of them, the husband and the children, have been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm the only one who can finish the sentence in my house. And my focus for the last, I'm also a special education teacher and a lecturer. I teach in college in Jerusalem, as well as, and I've taught for many years in the classroom, which has been an incredible journey and fantastic. And now my focus is really on ADHD. I'm an author of two books on the topic. One of them even became a bestseller on Amazon, which is extremely exciting. And I have a clinic. I work with couples with one of them having ADHD, or parents of kids with ADHD, as well as teenagers. And that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Okay, let's just back up a bit. When you got married, did you know your husband had ADHD, or was that something that came afterwards?
So that's a kind of funny story, because when I met my husband, I was teaching in an all boys school in New York, and because I had the special education background, most of the teachers were regular education trained. The school clearly had more confidence in me than I deserved, and they gave me all of the kids with ADHD. I fell in love with every single one of them. They were the cutest, the smartest, the most curious, the most, I loved their energy. And I actually finally figured out how to get them to even sit and learn. So we had a great dynamic going. Then I meet my husband, who's really over the top. I mean, the guy's got more energy than anyone I know. And I was just like, wow, I really like this guy. And then only afterwards I realized it's probably because he's so similar to these students that I'm so crazy about. So I didn't know, and he certainly wasn't diagnosed at the time, and he did very well in school. And he was just wrapping up his master's when I met him, which gives me a lot of faith, and always has given me a lot of faith, that ADHD is not a disorder. It's a we'll get into that conversation, I'm sure, at some point, but you can be highly successful and be able to channel that energy. So I guess the short answer to your question would be no.
So at what point? First of all, I just want to say, like, I'm also like, I don't have ADHD, but a ton of my family members do, and like now my clients all do, or majority. And it's literally like attracted to them. Like I love the energy and like how they view the world and how they always want to learn and how and just like their approach to life. Like I absolutely love it. So I like tons of my friends, like even as kids, like had ADHD just because like we connected so well. Um, but I'm curious, at what point did did it come in for him to be able to get diagnosed? Was it like once you had kids and they were getting diagnosed? Like how did that happen? Because like all your kids have ADHD.
No, so he was never diagnosed. It wasn't really important.
Okay.
He had already not compensated. He had learned to use his energy, which we call my house special energy. He learned to use it for the profession he chose. And he's an entrepreneur. He travels all over the world, gives presentations, is works in startups. So he's a business person, and his energy and his ability to do 17 things at once is actually an asset. And obviously there are things that we had to work out at home, getting to better schedules, working on timing. There's all sorts of things that have to be looked at, but there was no need for an official diagnosis. It was pretty obvious anyway. And diagnosis itself is really just kind of a checklist. So
Yes.
you can go right ahead and diagnose or not diagnose yourself.
Yeah, not I'm not promoting self-diagnosis, but I'm always saying I'm not a fan of diagnosis. Exactly for that. Also, I find like you're really good at saying like special energy, but a lot of like especially in the medical field with ADHD, it's like they really put on limits of like what you can or cannot do. Like because you have ADHD, like you just will really struggle with this your whole life. And it's like, no, like I said, you have to channel channel the energy. So what do you find people with ADHD struggle with most?
So it's kind of a broad question, because obviously on the social, there's a lot of areas. So on organization and consistency, that's a big one, because they have a very hard time with time, And you know, not showing up places on time is really affects your entire life. Getting things done promptly, keeping yourself organized, those are things, anything that you'd have to do consistently. So they have a basic, if you were going to say it in one concept, it would be a challenge in being able to resist instant gratification. So they're all over the place all the time because they're always running after what's fun and interesting and novel and a little bit dangerous and exciting, as opposed to just kind of plodding through life and getting things done, and also along the way enjoying excitement and a good fun time out. But so that's their thing. So they'll have great ideas and then fizzle out very, very quickly. And it's not because their idea is not great. It's because the tiny little details are very hard for them to push through on, because there is no gratification on that.
So what do you recommend someone with ADHD like to do about that?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I always start with an intake where I will try to figure out what the cause of the ADHD is. So um, pretty much the medical complex, perhaps we'll call it, has convinced us that ADHD is some kind of neurodevelopmental disorder, although they have not actually pinpointed where the neural part is, meaning that in most cases, 95% of cases to be quite exact, even in the very last study that was done in 2017, where they saw that 95% of the people that they tested with a scan for ADHD had a perfectly normal brain. So therefore, since we cannot blame it on the brain, we have to really be looking at what's causing it. So now it could be caused by something physiological, like a gut issue, or a kid taking too much antibiotics in childhood, or some bad reactions to vaccines. It could be something emotional, a child being in an environment that he cannot or she cannot handle the emotional integration of that environment. It could be a screen addiction, lack of sleep. There's many different causes of these exact same symptoms, some emotional, physiological, and then environmental. And therefore, the first thing I would do is say, what's going on for a child? If a child constantly has a runny nose and rashes all over their skin, I'm going to say, okay, so we're seeing that this very clearly points us physiological, and that in which case, I would help the parents put the child on a diet. And therefore, and that really does the trick. It does amazing work. If it's that there's an emotional integration issue, then we're going to work solely on just helping the child understand their emotions and problem solve and work on that. But in general, you're always going to have a few of them. So you're going to be having behavioral issues. The main cause is an instant gratification personality, by the way, in which case we're working on helping the child build their ability to have rules, follow rules, have schedules. So we're working on building habits. So in every area, we're doing different things. For habit formation, we're going to be using a behavior chart, as well as positive reinforcement through compliments, through writing things down that a kid did well in a book. And on the negative side, we're going to be working on punishment, kind, consistent punishment. Along with that, there's always going to be an emotional element. For an instant gratification seeker, they tend to be fairly frustrated all the time, and we need to help them support that emotional frustration. So I recommend 100 things, but it's always going to be based on what the cause of your ADHD symptoms are.
So we're actually solving the problem, not just giving them medications that put on band-aids. Oh, I'm so passionate about that. Tell me, what about someone, an adult, right? Because most people here are entrepreneurs. They're adults, they're running businesses, and like most entrepreneurs, like you said, your husband have ADHD. I mean, it's been like researched about a third. I personally believe it's more, but
You think
not
it's like
like
100, right?
right.
I know what you're talking about.
So what do you usually recommend to your like adult clients who are trying to channel their special energy?
Well, so let's talk about adults for a second. The first thing that I would say about adults is that 90, we're going 95 a lot today. This is not scientific, what I'm saying. The 95 before was. So I just want to make sure, this is my opinion, is that of the people who come through my office, 95% of them are carrying a lot of childhood stress, trauma, and things like that. So, and anxiety from that came from childhood. So if I work with an adult, the first thing we do is drill down to what is your inner voice? What's going on for you? Do you have this need for perfection that's constantly making you feel like you're failing? How do you feel about yourself? So that's the first thing. We create mantras about like who you really are, and not the voices of the people that told you who you were when you were younger. So that always has to be done with adults. I really have not met an adult that it was just clean ADHD, just bad habits. It doesn't happen. So that, because most of those kids really overcame those bad habits by the time they're in high school. The ones that are dragging them into adulthood as well are bogged down by emotional stress. That's been my observation. Once we get through that, and we could do it in parallel, we're going to work on schedules. Now, you can't schedule your whole day. That's what people with ADHD like to do. They like to tackle the entire thing and then, like, explode in defeat 3 days later, because they can't possibly organize their entire day. So we're going to start with a corner of the day. We're going to say, okay, so where do you struggle most? A lot of them struggle with getting to bed. They're addicted to their phones. They can't put the phone down and get into bed at night. So therefore, they're always setting themselves up for failure the next day. So we would make a routine for the evening. And we would also put in their phone something that shuts it off. And that's very important, because people think like, I'm a failure, I'm not strong if I can't get over my screen addiction. And guess what? A lot of really, really important, very smart men and women made the phone addictive. So of course you're not strong enough to be, stronger than this addictive substance that's been put in your hands. And therefore you need external help. Having your phone shut off so that you cannot access it anymore is extremely important for anyone who wants to succeed. Getting a good nighttime routine with a schedule is really, really important. And of course, exercise is a very, very big one. I prefer that people do exercise in the morning if possible, because that really floods your brain with dopamine and gets you focused. I know when I was sitting down to write my books, I always either went to a CrossFit class or ran on my treadmill before I sat down to write. And that's really essential. But throughout there are other things that they could have support. Having a coach that helps support you throughout the day, that you set up a program where you set goals together with someone else, and then you're able to report the goals that you've accomplished and be okay with the ones you haven't, and move them smoothly to the next day without berating yourself, without feeling like a failure. Those are a bunch of things that I highly recommend.
Oh, I love that. Now, this is a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is, but like going the other way type of question of, a lot of what helps ADHD actually also helps people who are like neurotypical, even though I don't like that word. Um, or people who don't have ADHD, let's just put it like that. The people who don't have ADHD can also like really benefit from doing exercise in the morning, from right, like having an accountable like coach and being able to like follow on their coaches. What is like your view on that?
So and parents say this to me all the time, because I also run parent groups. And parents will say to me, well, why aren't you inviting everybody? Every single mother and father could use the advice you're giving. And also, when I wrote the book, the publisher was also a little bit frustrated, because she kept saying to me, well, this is a book that everybody needs to read. Why are you limiting yourself to the ADHD community? And the reason really is, even though it harms me professionally, everybody could benefit, but someone with these ADHD symptoms, it's vital for them. And they really can't live without it. So you or I, like I just said, I don't have ADHD symptoms, but yet the exercise was incredible and really got me thinking, got all of my creative juices flowing. So we all should be doing that, but we can kind of drag ourselves through the day, and we could be okay. If you have a type A personality, you'll get the stuff done anyway. You might not get it done in the most efficient way. You might get it done in with a grumpy experience, but you're still going to get it done. the people with the instant gratification personality or with other reasons that are causing the ADHD symptoms, they must get this help.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. What made you decide to like go into like specifically coaching and helping ADHD?
So it kind of chose me. That's the truth. I was a teacher and I was enjoying what I was doing. But I saw even back then when I started teaching that those were the kids who I loved all my students, obviously. But those were the students who presented the most challenge. And I felt like they so easily could be helped if we put our minds to it and cared enough. So they drew me in. And from there on, like, so that was the first invitation. And then when my kids started being diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm looking at them and I say, these are normal children with normal abilities. And suddenly I'm being told that they're broken. And it doesn't appear to me that that's the case. So while I had done a bunch of work with ADHD in my classrooms, suddenly it was extremely personal. And I really dove deep into it and realized, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with their brains. This is kind of like there's not great science behind this. So what really is going on? And once it was for my own kids, like there's nothing I won't do for them. And Mama Bear came out and the work just kind of flowed from there.
So how do you get clients today?
What's that?
How do you get clients today? Like a little bit like from the business perspective.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a lot. First of all, I teach in a college, so I have many students every year, and they will recommend me to their aunts and uncles and cousins, and which is lovely. But I also have word of mouth, a lot of word of mouth. I do have Instagram and Facebook, and I have a website, and I have people who subscribe to the website, so they find me through that. The book has been helpful. People will reach out after they've read the book and they would like to have a little bit more help. I do not have a fantastic business strategy. That's the truth, and that's something that I probably need a whole lot more work on.
Do you like how do you see yourself moving forward? Focusing more on the business or continuing working in the university together, like together with business?
No, so the university is a side gig. I love it, but I do feel like working within the community is more fulfilling. Being able to just directly work with people that need the help is great. I have worked also, I love the group dynamic, which means I would like to expand to do parent groups, train coaches, really, do a lot of work like that. That would be something that would very much be enjoyable. As well as I'd like to train coaches in my method so that they can really spread it out and they could use my book as their text. And that was the reason, one of the reasons I wrote the book was so that people don't have to directly come to me. I could create a structure where many people are working with people in the right way by actually getting to the root cause of the problem. Because what I'm seeing is that there are a lot of poor kids who are being medicated because they can't get coaches and they can't get therapists. No one could pay for it. No one's paying enough attention. Mom and dad are too busy, working 3 full-time jobs in order to make ends meet. And those are the kids who are really being damaged by the medical structure that we have around this diagnosis. So my hope is that I'm able to get out to as many people who would like to bring this, the HyperHealing philosophy into those communities. And therefore those people will not have to pay out of pocket for the help that they deserve.
Yeah, it's fighting like the medical pharmaceutical system who makes so much money from it and just like especially in America it just gets like pushed out like crazy. Um like everyone schools like you get kicked out, like if you're not on medication, things like that. But I'm curious, your method you developed while you were working with your kids, or that was already from like when you were working with your students previously?
It's been many years of work. I started it with my students and I really got an understanding of what was really going on, to the point that I actually asked the parents of my students, who a couple, this is back in the mid 90s where they were just starting to give Ritalin, and they would give the 2 doses, and the kids would go line up at the nurse's office to get their second dose. So I asked the parents, because I taught a lot in the afternoon, and I said to the parents, please do me a favor and hold off on the second dose. I'd like to actually just meet your child as he is. And so I was really getting into it back then. And over the years, I have met and read and had the privilege to participate in workshops of amazing, amazing people. And I keep amassing more knowledge. So this is a 25-year so far project, and I'm actively learning all the time.
Oh, I love that. It makes me that story of like telling them to wait with that second dose. It makes me so happy. Like literally just makes me smile. Um, so before we get to our final question, where can people connect with you, get your books, work with you, and learn more about you?
So my website is the very best place to get in touch with me, because you can write to me directly. You can actually have a free 15-minute consultation with me so I could hear your story and give you a little bit of direction. And there's links to my book there. You could obviously look me up, HyperHealing, on Amazon, or by my name, Avigail Gimpel. And then I'm all over the place on social media, but I can't, if you send me a message on Facebook, it's going to be about 6 months till I get back to you. So website's your way to go.
Amazing. So we put all those links right below here. But final question that I ask everyone, and I'm be really curious to hear what you have to say, but what is something controversial that you believe in?
I believe in so many controversial things. Well, should we start with the COVID vaccine, or should we avoid that topic? Um, I
You could go for it. It's
we're
okay.
gonna
I know what you're gonna say, and I agree.
Okay, well, the vaccine caused way more harm than good, and we avoided it like the plague. That was very, very controversial back a couple of years ago, and we lost all of our friends and family over that one. But I think the most controversial thing connected with ADHD is that this is just not a brain disorder, and we have to stop blaming the brain for real struggles that the child is having. It's too easy a solution, and yet it doesn't solve the problem. It only solves it for the people, the teachers, because then the classroom's quieter, and the pharmaceutical company who makes the money on it. And if we really, really cared about children, we'd be looking at each individual child and saying, this child is struggling and really needs our help. So we have to stop stuffing the child into a box and really love the child and care for the child in a way that's going to get the child out of this struggle and start flourishing.
Completely agree with you. Thank you so much, Abigail, for being here. It's always fun to speak with people who actually agree with you on some lot of controversial things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.